Shri Sathrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhavitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusuti Devi Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevvacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Hare
Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwin, for the lovely recital of the Mangalacharan. Hare Krishna, everybody. Please accept my humble obeisances. Hare Krishna, Madan Gopal Das BG. Please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody in this group who have joined and who are about to join. I would also like to say Hare Krishna to Kamal Prabhuji as well. Prabhuji, welcome to our group. Thank you for joining in. Prabhuji will be our mentor tomorrow. So we are really grateful that he has come to the group today as well. Thank you, Prabhuji, for your association. Okay, so we are reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we are on chapter 18. Chapter 18 is the perfection of renunciation. And Prabhuji, today we are on text 16.
Okay.
I'll hand over to you, Prabhuji, and I'll give you the share.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I should be able to share my screen. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Thank you, Kritika Mataji and everyone for this opportunity again. It's always nice to join our elderate group and read through Bhagavad Gita. So today, as Mataji said, we are going to be doing 18:16. So let me see if I share my screen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and it is a pretty long chapter. So there's a lot of different topics that are kind of summarized in this final chapter. And here he's talking about the doer and the 5 factors of any action. Right? Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tuya pasyatyakೃತ buddhitvan nasa pashyati durmati. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Therefore, one who thinks himself only, the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Purport. A foolish person cannot understand that the Supersoul is sitting as a friend within and conducting his actions. Although the material causes are the place, the worker, the endeavor, and the senses, the final cause is the Supreme, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should see not only the 4 material causes, but the supreme, efficient cause as well. One who does not see the Supreme thinks himself to be the doer. So now here we see it starts with the word therefore. That means it's referring to the previous verse. If you go to the previous verse, Krishna says that whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body or mind or speech is caused by these 5 factors. See, so there are 5 factors. Whatever it does, whether it's right or wrong, doesn't matter. But all these factors have to be in place. Body, mind, So whatever he does with the body, mind, there are 5. What are the 5 factors? So here, the previous verse, he says the place of action, that's the body. Okay, so body is the place. Performer, that's not the body. The body is, we learned in chapter 2, way early on, that the performer is the soul, right? And then the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, the different kinds of endeavors, and ultimately the super soul. So these 5 factors are the factors of action. So we've already covered this, right? But I wanted to give some background. So what I'm going to do is I usually do this is we start from the beginning of 18th chapter and give a quick summary. I'm going to stop the share over here. And in the simplified version of this course that I give, we just kind of move through very quickly on the meaning of the essence of the conversation that's going on between Arjuna and Krishna. So Arjuna starts off asking about renunciation. Remember, this chapter 18 starts off about renunciation. So Arjuna asks, what is this difference between internal and external renunciation? And then Krishna explains that external renunciation affects your external behavior. You give up all your efforts to satisfy your personal desires. And internal renunciation affects your motivations, your internal motivations. What is it that drives you to do anything? See, so the internal drive is separate from the external actions. They are separate. Both need to be worked on, and both levels of renunciation are needed. But the inner renunciation is the one that really will have the results. So internal renunciation affects your internal motivations. You give up the desire itself to enjoy the rewards of your deeds. With external, you may not give up the desire, but you'll give up the fruit. You'll give up the actual sense gratification. See, you'll give up the efforts, but you may not be able to give up the desire. The internal renunciation, you give up the desire. So of course, which is better? So Krishna says, there are different opinions among the wise. Some say that actions are inherently selfish and therefore should be given up entirely. All actions, just give them up, because actions themselves are selfish, always. Others say that actions like sacrifice, charity, and austerity should never be given up. Those are also actions. So which one is it? Should we give up everything, including sacrifice, charity? So he's saying there are two opinions, right? So then Arjuna asks, okay, well, what is your opinion then? Other people may have their opinions. What is your opinion? Tell me that and I'll be confident. So then Krishna says, I agree. Krishna is saying, don't give up these actions. He says, I firmly agree that actions, these are the really good actions like sacrifice, charity, and austerity should never be abandoned. Why? For they purify even the wise. See, even those who are on the path, even those who are very advanced in the path of Krishna consciousness or spirituality, they don't give up acts of sacrifice, charity, austerity. They should not be given up. However, Krishna says, but still, my friend, such actions must be performed with a high grade of internal renunciation, as a matter of duty, not as a tool for selfish aims. Because you might think, oh, Krishna said we should continue doing sacrifice and charity and all that. So if I do more sacrifice, I'll get more money and I'll get more, enjoyment. That's not the point. We should give up the desire for the enjoyment and still continue to do these very positive actions for the sake of duty, not for the sake of selfish aims. Again, that's not the point. These things should continue, but they should be done with a very deep sense of internal renunciation. So what is this high grade of internal renunciation? So then Krishna explains that even renunciation in 3 modes. Remember, his whole framework of 3 modes is very, very important in understanding Bhagavad Gita. So he says even this renunciation can be done in 3 modes. So those in the mode of ignorance, tamas, darkness, they are renounced, but they're confused and therefore give up responsibility that should never be forsaken. So they give up stuff. Sometimes you see sadhus, they've given up so many things, but they're still attached to smoking pot or something like that. It's very, very common sight. There's a different kind of renunciation. Even here we see the hippies are kind of like that, where they've given up their rich houses, they sleep on the streets, and they beg for their food, and somehow they get enough money and they smoke some drugs or whatever. It is a form of renunciation, but it's a mode of ignorance. So it's there. They've given up stuff. They've given up things that most people generally run after, big jobs and big cars, big houses. They've given that up. But this is renunciation in the mode of ignorance. So you should understand also clearly what that is. And then those are mode of passion. They want pleasure, and so they give up responsibility that seems difficult and disturbing. They will never grant the fruit of true renunciation. This will not give the fruit of true renunciation. So mode of passion, they'll work hard. What have they renounced? They'll renounce things that are actually worth doing and taking care of. So it's people in mode of passion. They don't care for their relationships sometimes. They don't care for taking care of their family or friends. If it feels good, do it. If it, kick them out of your life, if they're coming in the way of your sense gratification, that's a mode of passion. They don't take up responsibility for higher things, even maintaining high relationships. So there's different kinds of renunciation. But sattva, the mode of goodness, mode of clarity, they don't give up their responsibilities. They carry out their responsibilities thinking, this is my duty. And what they renounce is any claim to the rewards of those actions. See, that's important. They don't detest unpleasant work, nor are they particularly attached to pleasant deeds. That's an internal renunciation. These intelligent people are free of all doubts and completely clear about renunciation. So you see, renunciation, Krishna, in a very nuanced and very subtle, very sophisticated way, teaches us what renunciation is and what are the 2 levels, external, internal, and even there, what are the 3 types. So then Arjuna is kind of clarifying. He says, renunciation in clarity or goodness, which is best, seems identical to internal renunciation. So it seems you're saying that internal renunciation is better than external renunciation. Krishna says, yes, that's the whole point. Because it is impossible for any living being to renounce all activities. Being a quote-unquote renunciate really means giving up the rewards of all your actions. So this concept has come up many times before. Give up the fruits of your actions. Give up that drive. So it's an internal detachment. See, you're still working, but you're internally detached. So since it is internal, it is difficult to observe or measure. So now you say, okay, this man is fighting on the battlefield, this man is fighting on the battlefield. Both Arjuna and Duryodhana are fighting on the battlefield. But one has a sense of internal renunciation, the other has a sense of selfishness. How do I know? They're both fighting. How can I tell? How can I measure my degree of internal renunciation just by looking at someone? And so this is how you quantify or quality. You can kind of figure out your degree. How? The more you worry about the outcomes of your deeds, whether desirable or undesirable or mixed, the less is your internal renunciation. When your internal renunciation is perfect, you have no such worries at all. That means even when Arjuna is fighting the battle, or even when our devotees, they're working hard, perhaps to raise a family, or perhaps to maintain so many temples, or whatever they're working on. There's so many things that devotees work on. They do. But those who have a high grade of internal renunciation, they don't worry. They never worry. The only thing on their mind is not worry. The only thing on the mind is Hari, Supreme Lord Sri Hari. They don't worry. Why? Because they understand that this is not me who's doing it. This is not mine. I'm doing it as a matter of duty. If it works out, very good. If it doesn't work out, that's also fine. So when you don't worry about the outcomes, that is how you measure. You can't measure by looking at them externally. Both of them are shooting arrows or hitting their kada or whatnot. Both fighting. Similarly, a devotee is working outside. A devotee works in office. And another regular person, materialist, works in the office. They both work very hard. They both work efficiently. They learn about getting better and things. But one is stressed out about how it will come out, and the other devotee is not. Devotee is not worried. So this is how we measure our own level of advancement. Is based on if we can assess the level of anxiety we suffer from with regards to how things will turn out materially. That should give us an indication. We don't need to tell other people about it. Okay, I'm very advanced. I'm outside my. Not necessary. If you want to judge, we've judged by a level of worry. So then Arjuna asks, even if I gave up all interest in the rewards of my action, thou would still perform actions. And since every action has a reaction, how could I possibly become free while still engaged in action? So then Krishna explains that when you give up your personal interest in an activity, you'll realize that you're not the true performer of the deed. So now Krishna is giving the understanding of who is the doer. See, when you think you're the doer, you'll be more attached, and you'll also be more stressed out. Oh, if I don't get this done, it'll never happen. Or it is me who's doing it, and we get all puffed up. Either we get all puffed up or we go stressed out. But all that is because, one, we are attached to the result, and two, we don't know who the actual doer is. See? So thus you'll not. So now when you're truly detached and you understand who the performer is, who the doer is, because now you become truly selfless, then you'll not receive the reaction. And Krishna has touched upon this in the past as well, that when you become truly selfless and put Krishna in the center, then everything you do for Krishna, which will be selfless. That's the only true selfless platform, is a platform of bhakti yoga or the platform of devotional service. Everything else has some degree of selfishness. But when you're 100% selfless because you're serving Krishna only, it's his interest, then we don't receive any reaction, which is why it is called akarma. So we will no longer receive any of these reactions. Okay? So how is it possible that I'm not the doer, the true agent of my own actions? How is that possible? I thought I'm doing it. And then Krishna says, my friend, our science describes the 5 agents in any action. So this comes to our point here. And what are these 5 agents? One is the venue, the place, the performer, the instruments, and 4 the techniques, and of course 5 divinity. Divinity where Krishna is personally sanctioning, he's allowing and empowering. He gives the power, the energy, the strength to get it done. Of course, you need the person who's there, you need the place, you need the instruments, you need the technology, the techniques, how to do it. All those are needed to get anything done. But without the sanction of the Lord, the 5th one, which a lot of people miss out on. The first 4 are very obvious. Everybody knows that. It's because you can see them very clearly. But the 5th one, because it's invisible, a lot of people don't realize that Krishna is directly helping. So venue is what? The world your body inhabits, the place. The performer is your ahankar. Actually, that's a performer. The person, but person driven by what? Your egoistic ambitions. The instruments are your senses. Techniques are the movements of the muscles and so forth. Right. So here the person is digging, and so he has some techniques. He has learned to move, this implement. He needs the tools. He needs the field, and he needs his own internal drive to do the work. So those 4 are there. And divinity is the super soul. So Krishna in our heart is the divine element that makes any action possible. These 5 are the true causes of every action you perform with your body, words, or even your thoughts. See? Yeah, you can even think through. So as long as you see yourself, and this is today's verse, if you see yourself as the sole agent of your deeds, you have not yet developed real intelligence, and stupidity will blind you. Don't let your intellect be shackled and bound by such an egoistic concept. Realize that you're not the true agent of your action, and even if destiny forces you to kill all these soldiers, you'll not be bound to the worldly reaction of such deeds. So you're doing your duty. And if you're doing it selflessly for the higher purpose, there will be no reaction to you. Okay, so sometimes, okay, so let's see. It seems that intelligence and knowledge is the key to being freed from karma. And Krishna says, yes, knowledge and action are inseparably linked. You act always based on what you understand. Thus, knowledge is the foundation and inspiration for action. So, knowledge is very, very important. Okay, so this knowledge of who is the doer and knowledge of why you're doing something, being aware of your motivations and doing something selflessly. That will be the difference between getting a reaction and not getting a reaction. If you do selflessly versus selfishly. Okay, now sometimes there is confusion with regards to these doers. Who is the actual doer?
The soul?
Huh?
Is it the soul?
Yes, so, so that's a good question. That's a good answer. It's the soul, but it's more than that. Remember, there's multiple doers.
Yeah, so it's the super soul. It's Paramatma who's.
Well, that's one. But that's the point. We have to understand there are multiple doers, not just one. You see, that's the point. So I have this analogy over here. Here, this little boy, he can barely lift his hammer. Now, you might be familiar. There's a game that they have in carnivals and some, fun places where, like, if you hit this little rubber platform with this huge hammer, and then this little bell goes all the way up and rings the top, and if you hit the top of it because you've hit it really hard, then you get a prize. So they have this at different carnivals and stuff like that. So now there's this little kid who can barely lift the hammer, and even if he lifts it, he can just kind of touch it, and the little piece of metal hardly moves up. It'll only move a couple of inches, right? Then he's very frustrated. His father sees his frustration, so his father stands behind him, and while the kid is holding the hammer, the father also holds the hammer. Now, when the father lifts the hammer, lifts it way up and hits it so hard, and this bell goes all the way up, and it rings the thing, and the kid feels so happy that he accomplished this, and he gets a little teddy bear for a prize. The kid feels that he did this. He accomplished this feat. So now there are several elements of this picture. Of course, the father is not there, but you can just imagine the father is also there, right? One is, okay, so the question is, who accomplished this? Who did this? Who accomplished this ringing of the bell? So one is the hammer itself. Without the hammer, it could not happen. Two is the kid. The child himself also wanted to do this. And three, the father. The father who came, provided, he gave the allowance that yes, it should be done. I will allow you to do it. Not only that, I will give you the strength. I will in fact do it for you. But he does it in such a way that the kid feels the kid accomplished it. So without these three elements being there, this would not have happened. What are the three elements? The instrument, two, the child, and three, the father. Or another way of looking at it is the three modes of nature or material nature, matter itself, which is here in the case, the analogy is the hammer. So matter, the whole material situation. Two, the soul, who has the desire to accomplish something, with the desire to do something, to get something. That's the soul. And three, the super soul, Krishna, who does two things. He allows it to happen, and two, he empowers. He gives the power and the strength. Ultimately, without Krishna's help, nothing can happen. Nothing can be accomplished. whether good or bad. Everything depends on Krishna's. So this is a very important aspect to understand when you accomplish anything. Why is that? What is the context of this with the context of renunciation? Is that, one, because Krishna is the one who accomplished it for us, not us. Therefore, he deserves the prize. He deserves the teddy bear. Without him, we could not have done it. So when we recognize that Krishna allowed and empowered us to accomplish anything, it makes us humble, one, and it makes us truly detached, because we realize we didn't do it, and the fruit result is not ours. It is meant for use in Krishna's service. So how do we extend this analogy to our modern daily life? As we are trying to become better devotees, at the same time raising families, going out to work, dealing with headaches at work, dealing with headaches in the house, the pipe leaking, and then dealing with sometimes headaches with our family members also. How do we apply this understanding in our attempt at being Krishna conscious? So anytime we feel that this house is mine, I built it, or I bought it with my hard-earned money, and this is my wife, this is my husband, these are my children for me to enjoy, this whole situation is for me to enjoy, then we're in the lower modes, because we don't realize that everything has been given to us by Krishna, including our own bodies, including our ability to do certain things, to earn wealth, to accomplish certain things out in the world. All our abilities have been given by Krishna, and all our accomplishments have been sanctioned and empowered by Krishna. So when we recognize that, we realize that everything we have, including my house, my bank balance and all, it should be utilized in Krishna's service, including my time, all the time that I have. Instead of wasting it in my own selfish sense gratification, I use it in service of Krishna. Incidentally, that creates a deep sense of detachment, because we know who everything belongs to, we know by whose mercy and power we got it, and we know for whom what we have is meant to be used. Now, what is amazing about this realization is that our actions will be transformed. We will do everything in a proper Krishna conscious manner. We will use our house and our resources in glorifying Krishna by chanting his holy name, by reading Bhagavad Gita, by sharing Gita with others, spending our time going out and giving it to others, or staying in and calling others to our house, having home programs, and sharing the happiness we have discovered. And this gives us a deep sense of satisfaction, and the detachment makes us much lighter inside. We won't be stressed out because we're not worried about the outcomes. It doesn't mean that we won't use intelligence when we do our work. We'll still use intelligence. We'll still pray for the strength to get things done, to serve Krishna. But when things don't turn out the way we are expecting, we should realize that Krishna did not sanction it. Or there's a lesson to be learned on how we can do it better next time, certainly. But the main point is Krishna did not allow it, and if he didn't allow it, that's fine too. It's Krishna's bother, not mine. And the more we transfer our bothers to Krishna, the more stress-free we will be, and the less we will be ridden with the pain of the anxiety of living in this material world. And so this is a very important understanding of who is the doer. Now, this would not have happened without the kid's desire. You see this action. So similarly, what we're doing, we are desiring. So the only thing we can claim is the desire. And Krishna fulfills that desire. But we cannot claim the accomplishment. So another lesson to learn is we should be careful about what we desire. Because now if you realize that our fruits and our resources are meant for Krishna's service, then should I not reassess my desires to make sure they are closer in line with Krishna's service? See, if I have a strong desire to start a business, Krishna will help us, right? He'll help me and start a business and open a shop. But if my desire is to open, say, a meat shop, that is not in line with my Krishna conscious progress. But I can open, instead of a meat shop, I can open a sweet shop, perhaps. and then offer all those nice sweets to Krishna and then sell them as prasadam, or we can have prasadam restaurant. So now the desire to open a shop, because I reevaluated and realized that yes, Krishna will give me strength, and even he may sanction even me opening a meat shop. He does that too, even though he doesn't like it. So should I not change my desires to be in line with what Krishna likes and prefers? And that is the next level of Krishna conscious renunciation, where now not only do we renouncing the fruits, but we're also renouncing our tendencies that are selfish or non-Krishna conscious. That's the next level of renunciation, where we renounce our selfish desires. And the more we practice applying the principle of giving everything to Krishna, incredibly we'll actually be happier, not more deprived, but more enriched. And so that's where this chapter 18 is going to go toward. And as we unfold more and more, we will see how this happens. So I will stop over here and we can have some discussion, questions or comments, if anybody has any. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Today's session really put together everything we have learned so far. And thank you for starting from the beginning. Are there any questions or comments? Prabhuji, till people are thinking about various yes, Kamal Prabhuji, do you have a question?
Krishna, Madan Gopal Prabhu, thank you very much for the lovely class and great explanation. I really liked how you talked about external renunciation and internal, and how externally we could be giving up so many things. But I was thinking, because the other day it was Ekadashi, and how the whole point of Ekadashi is that you spend more time thinking and doing things for Krishna. So in one sense, if you're doing Ekadashi and you decide to do Nirjal, but all you're thinking about is eating, you're better off eating something and then engaging more in Krishna's service. Could you speak a little bit more about how we can cultivate, maybe some practical tips on how we can cultivate kind of internal renunciation, which is kind of can help us kind of have the right mood, rather than just externally giving stuff up, but then internally we can't really focus on Krishna?
Yeah, that's a very good question. What is this internal renunciation? And what are some tips or some actions that we can take in the practical life that can increase our internal renunciation? So we have to start with the result of what we are experiencing today and work backwards from there. Okay, that's how we do it. Because we see, if I take a particular line of action, I choose I'm going to go down this path of action, as well as attitude and level of say attachment to the fruits and what I'm going to do. So I'm going down this path, and then I end up very stressed out because I'm filled with anxiety that it's going to work or not going to work. Making an investment, I could lose all that money in that business that I'm going to put in, or whatever. And then by the end of it, you'll make a mild profit, not as much as you did, but even at that point, you're so stressed out, so much anxiety. So we work backwards from there now. Let us evaluate today, okay, in our lives, what is causing me the most anxiety? And we all know what they are. We don't need somebody else to tell us. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't even know. I'm so stressed. I don't know why I'm stressed out, but I am. So, and it happens because we are stressed out about 27 or 28 things. We know all those 28 things. If I list them down, they're all correct. They're all causing my stress. Which one is number one? I don't even know. It's so bad. It's so complicated right now. You see? So then we have to kind of figure out and take an inventory of the causes of our stress. And then work backwards from there. Why am I stressed out about this? Let's look at it from Krishna conscious perspective. Okay? I have an exam. It's coming up. Suppose I'm a student. I have an exam coming up in 2 weeks from now, or say 2 months from now. And I know that in this particular subject, I've done very poorly in the past. Okay? I am really stressed out because my habits are really bad in this subject. I hate studying for it, and I usually end up procrastinating and things like that. So the cause of my stress is my procrastination, poor time management. So that's one example, okay? Another example could be, like, say, financial and things like that. Now, when we go to the Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna focuses on one topic in particular over many chapters. And that topic is the three modes of nature. So now, say I'm evaluating the examination situation, right? The cause of my stress is my bad habits. I know I have a hard time pulling myself out of those bad habits. I know that's the cause of my stress. And I feel paralyzed that there's nothing I can do to come out of it. Okay. This is where the understanding of the three modes of nature comes in. When we start applying the principles of the three modes of nature in the root causes of our stress, then gradually we'll see we are succeeding in doing a lot better, and those causes of stress kind of disappear. And now you look forward to that. That exam is a joke. It's nothing for me. It's no longer a cause of stress anymore. So how did that happen? Principles of time management, for example, can be applied through the understanding of three modes of nature. Okay, so this is just an example. Okay, so there are three ways, three kinds of attitudes on time management. One is called the precrastinator, the other is called the procrastinator, and the other is called the rational decision maker. Okay, so the precrastinator freaks out and panics when a task is assigned to him and tries to do it really, really fast, way before the deadline, but with no focus because they're freaking out all the time. Okay, the procrastinator is so lazy. I'll do it at the last minute, and you have to study for a French exam. I won't study. I'll study the night before. You can't study for French the night before the exam. You do it every day a little bit, right? But the guy's like, okay, and then he starts scrambling the night before the exam, and he also failed. Okay, so both of them are panickers, but the procrastinator is a mode of ignorance. The precrastinator is a mode of passion. But the rational decision maker who plans it, okay, you know what, this means that, okay, I have 2 months, so every day if I do about half an hour between this time and this time, studying French or whatever it is, and I'll make a plan and stick to it, then gradually I will pass. And so that person who is in the mode of goodness will make rational decisions. So if we evaluate our decisions through the lens of the three modes, by understanding how Krishna has taught them, And by the way, these time management principles are there in the Gita. In fact, Mansi Ganga, my wife, she gave a class at the Sunday feast just on this topic, on how to do it. So I'm remembering it. But this is an example. So if we apply the understanding of three modes to everything that causes stress in our life, we'll realize that the mode of goodness is closest to what Krishna wants us to do. And it's much easier to offer it to Krishna. And we can only offer foods in the mode of goodness to Krishna, right? We can't offer mode of passion and mode of ignorance foods to Krishna. So we only offer mode of goodness to Krishna. Similarly, even the work we do, we can only offer really the work we do in the mode of goodness. That's a nicer offering, right? So then when we do work in the mode of goodness, our stress levels will be low. So you're asking for practical tips. This is what I'm giving some insight as to look through the lens of the three modes in whatever we do. Figure out, am I applying the best possible intelligence in doing what I'm doing? And then when we are, we'll actually be less attached to it because it's more offerable to Krishna and it's easy to offer to Krishna. So the internal renunciation comes when the mode of goodness becomes prominent. And if I'm too paralyzed, where do I even start? It's explained. Okay, well, if you're completely paralyzed, you start from the beginning. For mode of goodness, you start with ahara shuddho sattva shuddhi. You start with your food. If your food is shuddha, mode of goodness, then gradually things start getting mode of goodness. Your intake, food means not just eating, but also what you read, what you watch, what you hear. If you start making that more God conscious, more sattvic, then everything will be mode of goodness. Then you'll start, freeing yourself from the paralysis of the lower modes. Krishna spends a lot of time on those three modes, including what you eat. I mean, they're a battlefield, and he's talking about how much chilies to put in your food. It must be important, right? So, yeah. Anyway, that's a deep question you have, but it's the point I'm trying to make is learn the three modes and how it applies to your situation and your cause of your stress. and we can work from that point.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, on the same, there are some activities where you don't have control over. So in those situations, do you just pray to Krishna and say, I'm giving this to you, you deal with it, because it's not in my control?
Yes, that is more of goodness. That prayer, right? My Lord, give me the strength to change the things that I can, the tolerance to accept the things that I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. That means give me the wisdom also to know what I cannot change, because sometimes there are things we cannot change, but you still try to change them. That means we're not wise. So that wisdom means more of goodness. So level of detachment means, okay, I know there's nothing I can do about it. If there's nothing I can do about it, why am I worrying about it? Worry hasn't solved any problems. So what's the point? Let it be. It's the Lord, whatever you put me in, we just tolerate. We have to tolerate also. The tolerance is a mode of goodness thing too. So that's the high level answer, that we have to, of course, we know it's a lot easier said than done. This is the higher tests. These tests get harder and harder, especially when you're put in situations which we think are not ideal. Another way to look at it is to see that everything that happened to me is ideal for my Krishna conscious growth, including this very painful situation. Because Krishna is helping you build a particular muscle that's very weak. And sometimes when you're building muscles, sometimes there's a lot of pain, but there's no pain, no gain. So we can see it from that angle too, that this is my way to go through something that I need to go through. So everything that happens to me is ideal by Krishna's mercy. There's a higher way of looking at it.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. There is a question from Peter Mulli. Prabhuji, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat to
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
and to all the devotees. I was asking, where you said that when things don't go according to plan, it means that Krishna hasn't planned that for you. It means he has planned something else for you, maybe, or he doesn't like that. He doesn't like what you're doing. Is that what it means?
It means that he has not sanctioned it, that particular thing to happen. Yes. Now, whether he likes or doesn't like, that's a whole different discussion. We don't know whether he likes or he doesn't like. See? But we do know that he didn't allow it to happen. You see, there are many things that Krishna allows to happen which he does not like, but he still allows them to happen. So it's up to his prerogative. Thus, we might wonder, if Krishna is fully in control, why does he allow bad things to happen? Why does he allow people to do bad things? But he allows them. It's the nature of this world. But even that allowance, he'll limit it to some degree. So yes, that the point to understand is, if I am hoping for a particular outcome, it doesn't happen, then we have to just accept it as Krishna not allowing it to happen. And find the lesson in it. There's always some lesson to learn. Maybe I should do the same thing but a little better. You can evaluate. I failed in these 5 points. If I planned it better, this will go better. For example, I plan a kirtan program and I expect to have 300 people there. Everything is ready, first class, and I even cooked for 300 people, and only 12 people show up. Okay, so then I said, Krishna didn't want it to happen. Maybe he didn't like a big program. That's not the point. Maybe he likes or didn't like, that's a different issue. But I need to evaluate. Why did I fail? I know this is a good thing to do. Does this mean that I should never do any kirtan program in the future? No. It means that maybe I was not very efficient or effective in marketing, in promoting the word, spreading the word. Or maybe I scheduled it on the same day as the World Cup of soccer and everybody's watching it. Something like that. Maybe something practical even, So then we reevaluate, and then if I plan the same thing next month, I have 320 people instead of, So this time Krishna wanted it to happen. So it's not that it always depends on whether he wants it to happen or not. Sometimes we can do silly things. If you do unintelligent things, that's not his fault that I didn't promote the program, So we need to be careful also on where to lay the blame on our failures. You know.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Are there any other questions? Arya Govindas, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful class. Just going back on that boy hitting that hammer, and the father helping him to achieve that feat. So I mean, is there any sort of percent that I mean, the boy has certain effort and the father does certain effort. Is there a certain percentage to that, or I mean, how does it work?
Actually speaking, it's not about percentage. It is really about, honestly speaking, it's 100% Krishna, always.
Okay.
Because all the energy comes from Krishna. So it's always 100% Krishna. You can't allocate percentage to the energy that goes into it. So why did it happen? It was my desire. The desire was 100% mine. The allowance and sanction was 100% Krishna's. So that's the way to look at it. The only thing I can claim is the desire. Even me lifting my finger today, the only reason I'm able to lift my fingers right now is because Krishna is sanctioning it. Otherwise, tomorrow, if I have paralysis, I can't even lift my finger like this. We know that. People suffer from stroke all the time and holds one side of the body, including the face, it gets limp. I mean, that happens, and Krishna is not sanctioning me to smile with one side of my face. So 100% depends on Krishna, 100%. So if you want to allocate percentages, desire is 100% mine, energy allowance 100% Krishna's. That's how you can allocate percentage.
Okay, and I mean, continuation on that, and the endeavor part on the particular individual, the endeavor.
Yes, so endeavor is the same thing, right? Endeavor is what we end up doing. So my point is, even at the endeavor, because it's happening through our body, we can claim that we did it, because we did do it in one sense, right? But like I was saying, even that endeavor, every microscopic muscle movement was sanctioned by Krishna. You see, think about it. Krishna says, in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayamaha Mojasa Tushnami Chaushadhi Sarva Soma Bhutva Rasatmaka. That I am maintaining these planets. Look how big control I have. Huge control. I float them in the space. Dharayamaha Mojasa. And then from the moon rays, I put the energy into the vegetables, the nutrition into the vegetables, the rays of the moon. And then the next verse is, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashita Pranapana Samayutam Pachamyanam Chaturvidam. Then I become the fire of digestion inside your stomach and break down the vegetables that I infuse with moonlight from those planets and everything floating around that I put up. So he's saying, and then I also become the prana apana, your breath that energizes your muscles and your whole body digestive system. That is the level of involvement I am with just your body, microscopically and macroscopically on the planetary scale. And these two verses are next to each other, okay? So he's trying to infuse you the perspective that every single thing, including the movements of the moon and all that stuff, and the vegetables growing out, the potatoes and everything, and you cook it and you eat it, and then it breaks down and becomes, muscle power and energy. All that I am personally involved. So how can we even claim the endeavor? We can't claim anything. Even our digestion depends on him. What to speak of for muscle movements? So that is my point. This whole thing has been orchestrated for one thing only, to facilitate our desires. That's all. Otherwise, the endeavor, the place, the venue, everything comes from Krishna. It's sanctioned by Krishna. It's designed by Krishna. See, so all those factors really are all Krishna working. That's the way to look at it.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful dimension to it. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
See,
Krishna.
I have a question.
Sandhya Mataji, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji and Hare Krishna all devotees. Prabhuji, just want to ask, is this not like so sad that in the person who had a stroke, he can say that Krishna didn't want him to smile from one side. So is that not, I find that very sad.
Not sure if I heard that clearly. Anyone else hear that clearly?
Prabhuji, like you were saying that in the person who's had a stroke, he could say that, well, Krishna didn't want him to smile from one side. I find that quite sad. That, the Father who loves you so much would not want you to smile from one side, or would not want you to hear, or would not want you to see. Or I suppose someone could turn this around and say, well, now this is your karma. Now it's Krishna keeping the count of karma and we facing our karma, or Krishna is the loving Father. I'm a bit confused, Prabhuji.
It's a good question. It's a good question. If someone is loving, so there's a couple of angles to this. Let me tell you a quick story. You might have heard this story. There's a king and a minister. Okay, and they went hunting. And the king, he was shooting something and he missed the deer or whatever. And then the minister was also trying to shoot. And he, by mistake, when you're shooting, he like hurt the king and took off the thumb of the king through his arrow. And the king was so upset. He's like, what's wrong with you? How do you do this? And the minister like, whatever happens is Krishna's mercy. It's not good or bad. It just happens. The king was so upset by that answer. He's like, how can you say this is Krishna's mercy? You took off my thumb. Now I can't even shoot anything anymore. And he got upset at the minister and put him in jail. Put him in jail for, I'm going to put him in jail for, I don't know, maybe 10 years. Let's see, he rot in there. So he put him in the prison. And then he went hunting again after another 6 months. Of course, he's in the other hand now because his thumb is gone. And but this time, he was captured by these cannibals. A bunch of tribal cannibals had captured the king, and they tied him up, and they're going to put him in a pot of boiling water and offer the king as an offering to their Devi. And the king was really, really so scared. He was screaming, he was going to die. And then the main priest of the cannibals said, wait, we can't make this offering to the Devi. And we said, why? Well, look, his thumb is missing, and because his thumb is missing, we only are allowed to offer like a full body. His thumb is missing, he's unofferable. Let him go. So they let him go. And then the king realized, oh my God, my minister is saying that's my minister is saying that it's a good thing that it happened. Now I see. We can't tell right now if it's good or bad, but somehow Krishna let it happen. I thought it was bad at that time. But maybe Krishna saved me, and this is because of this I got saved. Otherwise I would be dead right now. So he was so happy. He went back. He released the minister, and then he tells minister, "This is what happened. Now I see what your point is. But I'm so sad that I put you in jail for a whole year. You're rotten here, So you must be feeling bad about it." Minister said, "No." I said, "What do you mean, no? For a whole year you're innocent and you're imprisoned." And the minister said, "No, even that is good." "How is that good?" "Well, if you hadn't put me in prison, I would be with you on that hunting trip, and they'd be boiling me right now." You see? So sometimes from the bigger picture, we cannot tell what is good for us, what is bad. Now, sometimes some of these things may seem very brutal, vicious. Okay. So that is one angle. And the other angle is the karma, that we accept Krishna's karma that comes down. There's a whole system of justice that has been set up. If we have hurt many people in the past, the system of justice does come down upon us. It's hard to tell because this life I didn't do anything bad, but in last life there's so many lives we could have done bad things. But when we become devotees of Krishna, what happens is we accept whatever comes to us as a token of our punishment. So Prabhupada always teaches that, if we get small cut, we should realize that, oh, this is a small cut. Actually, I deserve to have my throat cut, but Krishna only gave me a small cut instead. So he's given me a lot minimized version of situation. So devotees see these angles, and this is the devotees don't get bitter to the Lord, because it is true that we get karmic reaction. Just because a father keeps allowing a child to behave really badly doesn't mean that's a good parent. He's a loving father. How can he lock up his son, put him time out for throwing a tantrum in the grocery store? He's not give him time out. That's what kind of loving father is that? But actually part of the love is to straighten us out. Those fathers and mothers who have been very permissive end up with very spoiled children who don't know what the value is in life and things like that. So there is some value to that justice system. There's some value to what punishments we see. And sometimes we allocate a lot of pain to these. Of course, they're very painful, but we may think they're so gruesome. But they're not in the higher level of things. We have gone through so many strokes ourselves in the past. So many, who knows how many times we've gone through, but now we are here. We're eternal souls. This body is not ourself. You see, so devotee sees every situation, even if it means having gone through paralysis or being in a wheelchair, or whatever it is. We have some great stalwart devotees who have suffered from stroke. They still continue preaching. Our spiritual masters in our movement who are still doing it. They don't see this as something to be bitter to the Lord about. So it's a matter of evolution of our consciousness and the maturity of understanding the perspective that perhaps perhaps Krishna, it's better for me to have gone through this for whatever reason. We can't tell right now. And two, Krishna has given me a lot lower version of the punishment that I truly deserve. So in any case, that person is very grateful. And when a person has that level of gratitude, then access to the spiritual kingdom becomes his rightful claim. There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, spoken by Lord Brahma in the praise. Tatyenu kampam sasamikshimano bhunjane vatma kritam vipakam hridvagvapur bhir vidadan namaste jiveta yo mukti pades dayabhak. That for one who continuously offers obeisances to the Lord with his mind, body, and words, means continues to remain a devotee, even while suffering the reactions of his past deeds, can enter the kingdom of God because it has become his rightful claim. So we must do those two things: continue offering our obeisances to the Lord and serving him, and two, tolerate the pains that are coming to us because of our past misdeeds. Now, sometimes it may seem too high of an order, but that is what's required to get in the kingdom of God. Right?
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was a very nice example. Thank you. Prabhuji, if I'm allowed, can I ask another question, please?
Yeah, that's fine. I do need to leave exactly at 1 o'clock sharp, or I don't know
We
what
have
time.
2 more minutes, 3 more minutes.
Prabhuji, I just wonder whether there is any answer for this, that why were our karmas not, sorted out in this life itself? Why did they have to be carried on and on? Why can't we be punished here and now? Hare Krishna.
A good point. Because a lot of the times, one life is not enough. I'll give an example. There's a king who was very cruel, and not a king, he was a hunter. He's a hunter and is very cruel. And he threw a net over a whole bunch of birds, and he caught them. And it's like one bird who had 100 little small birds as his children, and he poked the eyes of that father bird and killed all the 100 children of the bird. And it's very cruel, that hunter. 100 lifetimes later, or many, many lifetimes later, that hunter became Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra ended up being born blind with no eyes, and his 100 children were killed. Now, why did it take 100 or 200 lifetimes for him to get Dhritarashtra, that birth? Because in order for him to get enough sukriti to get 100 children and to be a king, he had to do so many pious activities over those many lifetimes. So to accommodate all that and the punishment, we need many, many lifetimes. So that's how the Lord has set the system up. That's the reason. He needs to accommodate our variety of desires, and so that takes time.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I need to leave right away because I have another meeting.
Yeah, I'll just ask Parth Prabhuji to end the session, Prabhuji. Just one more minute. Parth Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your nice and wonderful class. Also, the nice and relevant answers of the questions and doubts. We are so grateful to you. Also, the same time, all the assembly devotee. Please, I request all the devotee join in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for glorification of His Grace Madan Gopal Prabhuji. Please join. Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna.
Kalpa Tarubhyasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His
Hare
Grace
Krishna.
Madan Gopal Prabhu ki jai.
Ki Jai, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Tomorrow we'll
Hare
meet at
Krishna.
the same time, but the link might change. So tomorrow we'll have Soni Mataji. Are you there? Hare Krishna, Soni Mataji. Soni Mataji will be conducting the session tomorrow. Okay. So she will be conducting the session tomorrow, and the link might change. I'll send the links to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Kamal Prabhuji, we are looking forward to your association tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Jai.